Thank you very much. So the second speaker would be Dr. Ahani. He's a scientist from Iran, of the Management and Planning Organization of Khorasan Rasavi State. I met Dr. Ahani some years ago in Taiwan during the ESA international meeting, some years before COVID. And Dr. Ahani, I hope that your mic give us a nice presentation now. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I have to share my paper. I want to allow to WebEx, but maybe share my presentation.
At the moment, we see only a black screen. Please try it again.
Because I have sent my presentation last night to the president of this conference.
Thomas, kannst du das denn sharen?
Ein Moment, just a moment.
Unfortunately, I cannot hear. Maybe my software is error. Error. But if you can share my PowerPoint file or PDF.
Thomas is trying it. Bartosz spare 10 minutes, so we have a little bit time to find it.
Okay, you should see Hami's presentation.
Oh,
Actually,
thank you. Great.
Actually, you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, we see the presentation. Yeah. Okay.
My presentation is about some of my works that I have done during 10 years ago about C-vector. But unfortunately, I think you have to next slide. Would you please? You have to. Oh, great. C-vector has several aspects, and you know about that. And my focus was about C-vector germination first in two parts. First in greenhouse and after in field in the nursery. And I found out the mean of germination in greenhouse more than nursery, and after that I compared several seeds from 5 populations of Iran. I found out that in 5 provinces. Then I compared it depend on the years and the climate of the year before. Then maybe it's affect to the seeds and ecophysiology of seeds. And the Frankia is a very important bacteria for nitrogen fixing in the root of Hippophae. Next slide. I translated several activities about this plant. This image was about India in Leh, and the factors and the antiviral properties, anti-obesity of Cibactone, prevention of diabetes, and it's good for against Alzheimer and mental clarity, and osteoporosis and menopause. Because Cibactone, I saw several pills for anti-aging of this plant, especially for menopause of women, and it's very important of vitamin B12, because vitamin B12 are in the marine animals and animals in compared with plants, but Cibactone has approximately 37 microgram per 100 dried fruits. Please next. Yes, it's about the benefits of Cibactone. Please next. Omega-7 is good for skins. This is a new paper in 2022 about a special disease of lungs, that Cibactone, because of aspects of anti-inflammation, is very good for fighting to some disease of lungs. And is some explained about benefits of tocopherols or vitamin E, acid ascorbic, vitamin C, or other benefits of Cibactone. For example, vitamin B groups increase the regeneration of axon and neuron. You know, it's very good for neuron and is I saw in the some paper of Canada is anti-chronic stress. Next, please. As I told you, investigation of habitats of Iran and China, and compare this because I was in China for sabbatical research in 2014, and we work on molecular evolution of Cibactone. Some of our habitats has some mutation and they are near to Europe subspecies. For example, in northern west of Iran, we have a mutation and it's very close to some Hippoperamnoides subspecies, Rhamnoides or Fluvitalis, and I think by work on Cibactone and subspecies and cultivar, we can find out several things. For example, I read a paper to compare between vitamin C, for example, vitamin C between subspecies mongolica and subspecies sinensis, or subspecies turkestanica. Then the vitamin C of the smaller fruits may be better than bigger fruits. Next, please. And I do some experiment about some wastewater and saline water about Cibactone. This is the female boots and male boots of Cibactone. Next, please. I presented this image in 2015 in India, and I showed this is you can see Iran has not Cibactone. This image of Cibactone scattered, but Iran has not. But I expert and I discuss and I presented in ISA Iran has Cibacton, because Cibacton has made some substantial contribution to public health, but in traditional. And my PhD was about Cibacton. My PhD topic and thesis was about Cibacton, and I introduced to Iran, and I would like to continue to introducing this plant to people of Iran and all around the world. Next. As I told you, the comparison between 5 population of China and 5 population in Iran. Next, please. The elevation, most of them average were more than 2,000 meters. Next, please. This is image of Cibacton products. Next, please. The medium image is about Cibacton leaf tea. This is a stamp of Mongolia. And I produce these seedlings. You can see my daughter is the end of that image, and I have an innovation plan in my municipality of metropolitan city in Iran, and I planted several seedlings, and now it's good, but unfortunately the precipitation of this region is less than 200. Next, please. I have several papers and TV. I introduced Cibacton in TV, governmental TV, and this is Cibacton without irrigation. Next, please. I advertised Cibacton to some journals. Do you know this is seeds from a tea from Professor Morsel production, and only two seeds of that tea. By sowing that tea, and we can see more than 2 meters tree in Iran. I have sown that. Next, please. It's kind of some comparing of which treatment is better. My experience is gibberellic acid or some thermodynamic is very good for seed germination, especially watering, and after that putting to freezers 5 times, maybe in 5 days, is very good for germination. Without refrigerator, outside of refrigerator, and putting that to freezers, and 5 times, this thermodynamics is very good for germination. It's my experience. Please, next. I did several pre-treatments such as hot water, ice water, and cold treatment, and gibberellic acid. Gibberellic acid and cold and thermodynamic were the best for germination. Next, please. I have used 4 kinds of soil, and soil with litters and sand has the best results. Next, please. And this is six treatments for germination, and the base was cold and thermodynamic. Next, please. And after that, gibberellic acid. As I told you, in the winter and in the some sand. And I use some soil with very salty and saline water. And my experience was Tibetan can tolerate the southern of Iran, because I read in the paper more than 40 degrees and less than minus 40 degrees Tibetan can tolerate. But my experience showed me Tibetan can tolerate, but unfortunately most of the factors have decreased. Next. This is some factors for ecophysiology, leaf area ratio, and so on. Next. Next, please. I did some experience with some softwares, such as, yes, this is a weight of molecular of several habitats. I do it by some PCR or molecular activities. Next. This is weight of 10 population. Next, please. This is weight of some DNA of leaves of trees. Next, please. Sometimes some species between two countries may be similar. And this is morphological coefficient for diameter, for example, and you can see this height and diameter of Seebachthorn in control and salinity treatment very different significantly. But next, please. But I found out Seebachthorn could be alive more than 80% in the salinity situation. For example, height in control 72 centimeters, but in salinity 7 centimeters, or diameter, so on. 10, please, and number of leaves, yes, number of leaves 280 and 9 only, but alive. This tree is so tolerant with drought. Next. Yes, this is number of leaves in control and salinity and stem length, yes, such as height. And the x-axis is about time. Next, please. Yes, this is some indices of ecophysiology. Next, please. About salinity and control. And I did some experiment about wastewater. Wastewater, I think, such as limbic care. First is good because some minerals may be good for plants, and after several years, maybe it's toxical for the plant. But the first time is better. Next, such as what is very is only for plantation because maybe phytoremediation is not good. As I told you, this is seedlings after experiment, 81% viability, but not heighting, not leaves propagation, and so on. Next, please. I did some experiment about water relatives, such as relative water content, RWC, and water use efficiency, WUE. 4 treatments, 2 days watering, 4 days, 8 days, and 12 days irrigation of some seedlings that were put in some pots. Next, please. This is such as some suggestions about we can compare toleration of several subspecies, and it's very good to know after saline treatment maybe 8%, 80% were alive, and germination is so important for putting in some sandy soil and litter soils, not very heavy soil. It doesn't work, and we can use up global environment facilities and international funds about C-vector in developing countries such as Iran. We are received about that. Please next. Some Finland company spoke with me in the ISA conference, and they told maybe Iranian wild C-vector has so extract more than Pakistan or other countries, and there are robust link between some trades in Iran and other countries about the activities between some species, and maybe we can make a new variety because we have several subspecies, but we have to make subspecies and maybe cultivars or variety may be good for due to some resistance to some pest, or maybe good due to drugs, and food science and nutrition science is so important. Next, please. This is some devices for seeds, and this is a SPAT for, and this image is good because maybe 10 subspecies, but sometimes some botanists such as the plantlist.org website or TOWOQ website of botany may be different. Sometimes we call Ilignus rhamnoides because that was accept name, but in Povo we say Hippophoramnoides. What is so important, sometimes we say seaberry, sometimes Pivacton, it depends on countries. For example, I heard about Siberian pineapple. It's kind of name, or lemon pineapple, or lemon fruits in some Finland or Scandinavian countries, or in South Korea. It's so important and very beautiful name. They call vitamin 3, maybe vitamin namu in Korean language. Vitamin 3 means 3 of vitamins. So important, so beautiful name for C-vector. But the main name is C-vector because International C-vector Association, they decided to give common name. Next, please.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And this is some experiment on the leaves. Next, please. After drought stress. And this is my work about some mutation in cytosine, guanine, thymine, and adenine. Next. We compare from gene bank. And this is some physiological effects. Next, please. Yes, this is mutation. Every node is mutation of some population of Iran to compare of others. Next, please. This is a avian biology of some plants. It's very important because plants attract some birds, and this is some habitats of Iran. Yes, thank you. Next. This is some products of exhibition of Cibactome, and my paper was excellent in China. Next. This is I invited for next conference in Iran, maybe. Next, please. Next. This is in India certificate. Yes. Next. This is photos. This is my book. Has published in Persian language in Iran. University of Medical Science. Next. Next, please. This is my Instagram, and thank you for having me.
So, Dr. Ahani, thank you very much to give us an overview about your research in Iran with germination and also the wild population and some genetic research. I give the floor to the audience. Do you have any questions? No, but I have several questions. Dr. Ahani, could you tell me a little bit what kind of wastewater you used for irrigation? How you define wastewater?
Actually, we have a river in Iran called Kashafrud in Mashhad city. Mashhad city is metropolitan city in Iran, and unfortunately, some illegal output of factories put in the river, and it's so bad for people around the river. And I want to compare because sometimes some farmers planting some how to say maize or other things. This is good. This is not good for health. You know, because of phytoremediation. Then some afforestation and plantation organization want to sowing and growing some trees such as poplar. You know,
Yeah.
for wood industry to prevent people to some plants for health. Then I want to only experiment, very small experiment, but I don't propose to them to plant Cibactome near that pollutants river is so bad. Maybe in future, if someone want to pluck off or how to say put some fruit, maybe that fruit not healthy, then only for vegetation or some increment growth, or in this I use of this experiment, but it's not good for develop to plantation such as horticulture plant.
Okay, understood. I see Natalia has a comment or a question.
Thank you, Hamid, for your presentation. I would like to ask you following. The name of your presentation is Cibactome plantation in Iran. As I understood, you have a natural range of Cibactome in Iran. Did you use local seeds for your germination test, or only German seeds? And the second question is, do you have any Suboxone plantations in Iran, and how many hectares, and for what purposes you created those plantations? Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Only my local habitats or wild habitats of Suboxone. I compare 5 populations, yes, of Iran, and when I went to China, I compare only 5 population leaves of Iran and 5 population leaves of China. Do you know? Only from my molecular was about leaves between 2 countries, but in Iran only I experiment on local in Iranian Suboxone habitat. But when I buy some fruit teas of Germany, for example, or they gave to me in exhibition a little. I separate because I am eager to experiment everything. I separate several seeds from teas. Do you know? Only 2 trees, not for experiments. Only 2 seeds germinate, and I have 2 trees of Germany. And your second question about how many hectares, because I was the first researcher on Suboxone in Iran, then I would like to extend that and develop some region for plantation. I produced some seedlings and I gave several farmers, maybe plantation Suboxone more than only more than 5 hectares in several regions, scattered. But I would like to promote it. But wild population, we have so much. I invite you and other experiments to come to Iran in September or October to visiting this wild Suboxone habitat. It's my pleasure.
Okay. Okay. Thomas, do you have anything from the chat?
Yes, there was one comment or one question Daria wrote. Is there interest from consumers in Suboxone products in Iran? Can you give some information about the summit, please? Interest of consumers.
About products of Iran, your purpose? Question was about production of Iran.
How's the situation of the market? How the people are interested? Are the people interested in Suboxone products in Iran, or is it completely new for them?
Actually, we have not any company to produce Suboxone, but because I was the first, I do my best to introduce this. Only some homemade, you know, some dried fruits, maybe I can to export, or some homemade, such as some leaf tea or some juice of Suboxone, only that. But I would like, for example, I am co-supervisor of medicinal students and physician students, medical students who want to work on rheumatoid from leaf. We have to, and we are going to produce some capsules of leaves for anti-rheumatoid.
Okay. Okay. Is there anybody who has another question? Thomas, from chat is not more?
No, nothing from chat. We can continue.
Okay. Then I have a last question. Maybe I have overseen or overheard it in your presentation. If you use You have spoken about salinity or the stress of salinity on Sibaxone. Can you mention what was the concentration of salt in soil or in the water what you have used? Please switch on your mic again.
Deciments. 12 deciments.
No. If you use salt water for irrigation, what was the concentration of salt in the water?
12 deciments in water, and soil was not salty. Most watering. 12 deciments.
12.
Deciments per meter.
I don't understand it. Sorry. Maybe someone can help me.
I would write to you. I would write chat box about the concentration of.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Please write it in the chat, then we can continue with the next presentation.